Hello everybody, we are on day 70 here in the Baja. We're looking at the Sea of Cortez and we are going to do a Q&A. Thank you for everybody that asked all the great questions that I put out there about almost a month ago about our trip in the Baja.
It's been so fun reading all the questions and trying to, oh my gosh, how do you answer that? We've had a lot of fun with it.
We have questions about fuel. We have questions about water.
Safety.
We have questions about how are the roads. We have questions about how far did you drive on an average of every day.
What did you bring? What wouldn't you bring again?
And these are all great questions.
Very good, yeah.
So stay tuned and we're going to get right to it.
Okay, so question number 1 is from E.A. Foster. Excuse me while I read this. It's a 2-part question. What was the most important equipment to be safe and for boondocking is the first part. And it's a broad question, but I am going to say IOverlander was the number 1 thing, in my opinion, that kept us safe during our boondocking excursions and all the travels we've been doing. Before we went to a location, we always check IOverlander, and most of the places that we've stayed are on IOverlander. So if you haven't downloaded it, do it, because we are able to read reviews on the locations that we're going. It gives us the directions. A lot of times down here it seems like the coordinates aren't correct on the Google Maps, and it gives you additional coordinates, which has been really helpful. And then also we're able to see where different, it's a fisherman's village that we're parking next to. So we're aware that there's going to be fishermen coming in early in the morning, or it's super close to town and the locals like to go there in the evenings and party and on the weekends.
Yes.
And we've ran into that, and that's always fun and exciting. So it gives you some really great information. And another important thing is that it tells you 4-wheel drive. Must have 4-wheel drive, or 2-wheel drive has been great. My Toyota Corolla got down the road just fine.
For me, obviously nighttime can be scary. So I do have all of our big solar powered motion detector lights that I put all the way around the trailer when we park at night. So if anyone tries to sneak up, boom, they are highlighted within probably 35 to 45 feet. And that makes me feel a little safer.
Yeah, he has them on the bikes, on the back. He's got them on the steps underneath in case a critter's trying to get up into whatever underneath.
One of the couples that we're traveling with, they do not have motion detector lights. My buddy Jim had a great idea at a roadside stop, got himself a cowbell, and he actually tied this on to the back of his bike cover, so if anyone even touched that bike cover,
and it's right by their window on their bed, so it's
because you can never ever have too much cowbell. But this was a great idea, because you're not going to see this at night. And if you're going to reach for the bike cover, touch the bikes, anything, they're going to go, holy crap. So this was a great idea.
Okay, so Karen had 3 questions for us. The first one was, how long did it take us to get there after we crossed the border at Mexicali? I'm not exactly sure what she was asking about that, but this is how I'm going to answer it. When we crossed to Mexicali, our final destination south was Los Barillas, and it took us 7 weeks to get there. Now, probably could have done it in a couple of days if you aren't pulling at a trailer. If you're just driving hard to get there, you could get there in a couple of days probably. But when we traveled, we only traveled a couple hours each day. So it took us 7 weeks because we had no real time frame. So that's how I'm going to answer that. Let me know if you've got other information you'd like on that.
Okay, Karen also asked about Mexican fishing licenses. I went through Discover Baja, which is a online site, and you can basically go to their website and or call them, and they will email you, and then you just pay for it over your credit card. And for both me and Brenda to have a fishing license, I think it was just a little over $80. And one thing I did find out, if you fish from shore in anywhere in Mexico, you do not need a fishing license. We did have our flycraft boat. If you're on a boat, you have to have a fishing license. So Discover Baja worked really well for me getting our fishing licenses via email, and then either putting them on your phones and or making copies.
Okay, Karen's final question was, what's needed to cross the border other than your passport? Highly recommend getting in touch with Discover Baja. They were just a huge amount of information, and we did not use them when we got our stuff together, but Jim and Rita did. And so they had that connection, and hearing their experience, highly recommend getting in contact with Discover Baja. So what we needed was to have auto insurance. Along with our passport, we had to have the auto insurance for both the truck and the trailer, and Discover Baja sells that. Finding out what Jim and Rita paid for their insurance versus what we paid for our insurance, pretty comparable. Coverages and everything, different values on the rigs, but it was very similar. Our auto insurance cost about $900 for 6 months. That was full coverage on everything. It's 6 months of insurance. We're only here for 3 or 4. Doesn't matter. You got to pay for 6 months. We're not getting any money back on that. So it is what it is. Cover yourself appropriately. You also have to have your auto registration. You have to get your FMM when you cross the border. Do not leave the border without the FMM. You'll hear about it on any video that you take or watch YouTube. Everyone talks about getting their FMM. If you don't get it, you got to go back and get it. We did. We had to go back and get it because we did go past and never found the place to park, so we had to loop back around again, and then we were able to go in and get our FMM. So get your FMM. You have to have your driver's license, and you need proof of vehicle ownership. Now, I know I said auto registration, but we've also been told you have to have proof of title, or if you're paying on your vehicle still, you have to have approval or letter from the bank that you're paying to that you can take the vehicle into Mexico. So you have to have all of that, and you need to have at least 4 copies is what we were told. In everything we read about, 4 copies minimum of everything. And we have all that. I've got my file folder. I've got a little tab for each thing. I'm all organized. If anybody asks for that, we have never been asked for anything except our passport. Then they gave us our FMM. Everything was stamped, and off we went. We have never been asked for anything, but if we did, I had it ready to go. Keelan has 3 questions as well. First one that she had was, what gear did you have to make the trip?
Wow, again, a very broad question because everyone is different on how they travel, but our particular gear that we had to have was, obviously we have solar because we did a lot of boondocking on this trip. So solar and a good battery. We also brought a generator. We barely used it, but it was a great backup to have in case we had consecutive cloudy days, and we use more battery than we thought. Portable water jugs, because here in Mexico, you have to actually go to a aqua purification to get your water, because you do not drink the water in Mexico, so you physically have to go to each little town does have a water purification. You bring your jugs in, and that is your drinking water. And then I would take some of our bigger ones and fill them by hand into the trailer. So having portable water jugs was absolutely key.
So the agua purificada we would get in the towns like Rich was just saying, but I used IOverlander to find those. Not only does this app on my phone provide camping, that type of thing, it also, I'm able to put the filter on where it shows me water stations, showers, propane, fuel. So super important to have IOverlander. And every person that we talked to down here while we've been traveling that's been camping said they use IOverlander. Yep. So it's interesting. You don't realize how big that is, but it is invaluable. Invaluable, because you're in these small Mexican towns. You're looking for water, you're looking for propane, and you're looking for fuel, and you have absolutely no idea where it's at. And some of these water places were like down an alley and then over and right, take a left, and oh there it is. And without IOverlander, you'd just be totally wasting your time. So the other things that we used in my toolkit, because I was doing the navigating, was to have Google Maps. Of course, you got to have Google Maps, but don't always trust Google Maps, because it will take you the wrong way, and you are really not a happy person at that point. So pay attention, use your gut as well, but have a big map. We had, both Jim and Rita and Rich and I, we have the big book, basically, the map book for just Baja California. And we would flip through those pages because IOverlander is great. It gives us great information. Google can give you some great information, but like Rich said, we've done a ton of boondocking. And in doing that, most of the time you have no Wi-Fi. You don't see, you can't bring up most things. So having the ability to pull out a map that also has trailer parks and things like that on it, invaluable. Don't leave home without it.
And speaking of Wi-Fi, I'm just going to go ahead. It's not good.
Sketch.
We're so used to the States, it doesn't matter what part of the state you're from, you just turn on and you've got, here it is not good.
Even if they say, we've got Wi-Fi at the RV park or whatever.
Yeah. Sometimes our Verizon Wi-Fi, our roaming Wi-Fi was better than the Wi-Fi in the park, just because so many people are on it. So do not solely rely on that you think you're going to get good Wi-Fi for all your information that you look at on your phone or tablet or computer, because it's not good.
Okay, so Keelan's second question is, what gear was nice to have but not really necessary?
Wow. Well, we have a Snowmaster fridge freezer, which in my opinion was a must-have, because our onboard fridge and the little freezer, it's only this big, and when you're boondocking a lot, you have to have your protein, whether it's your fish, your beef, your chicken, or whatever. Sometimes you don't see a store for many days, so having the Snowmaster to me was actually necessary to have that protein frozen. And it was really nice to buy chicken and prawns and scallops and divide them up, have one for tonight, freeze the other one, we have that a week later. So having that ability to freeze protein, and of course we had to make ice too, was huge. But again, depending on the size of your trailer or how you're traveling, that may not be an option for you, but highly recommending to have a large type of freezer if you have a camper or an RV or pulling a trailer. Highly recommended.
So we also brought with us our bikes, our e-bikes, and it was fun to have them when we could use them, but we really were surprised in that we weren't able to use them as much as we wanted to. We expected to be able to boondock at a location, jump on our bikes and go into town, go cruise around, but really the roads were a little sketch and none of us were comfortable riding on the main roads because there's no side, there's no shoulder, thank you. So you're riding along with those cars and they do not slow down for you. So
yeah, I don't know the exact how many miles we put on our e-bikes, but honestly I would say it's been less than 50 miles during our whole trip down here. Now when we had them,
it was so fun.
It was fun, and I you know, the big question is, would we bring them again?
That is the question we've all been talking about, yeah.
And as of right now, we're going to say probably not.
Yeah.
Because it is, you know, it just adds another layer of concern, of safety, you know, keeping them chained up, loading them, unloading them. And we have been down some roads that have just been horrendous. And, you know, of course, you got e-bikes bouncing, and you know what? My Hollywood rack for my e-bike has so far been fantastic. But again, I don't know, we probably would not do it again.
So the other thing that we have on our list, I do have a list, traction boards and shovel. Nice to have.
Right.
We've used them.
Again, it depends on how you camp.
Exactly.
You know, we did use our traction boards a couple times. I got stuck. Jim got stuck. I think Dave got stuck. I'm not sure if we used the boards on his or not. I can't remember. But traction boards and a shovel is, again, you don't want to bring them, but it's really nice when you have them, because if you need them, trust me, you need them. Down here in the sand, it can catch you off guard and everything's fine and great, and then boom, you were stuck.
So the other things that we liked to have but weren't 100% necessary, the flycraft, our paddleboard, wetsuit.
Yeah, of course the flycraft, I would bring it again because I did a lot of fishing, and
it was so fun to be able to get out on the water when we could.
Yeah, the wetsuit I only used 3 times, because once we hit the Pacific side, there's just you can't get in the water. The waves are too big. It was
unless
too
you're
windy.
a surfer. If you're a surfer, then, but we are not. So.
But again, I think if I came down next time, we've already agreed that we were going to stay longer at the best spots. And then the wetsuit, the flycraft, all that may come into play a whole lot more. But again, first time around.
So we didn't use it a lot, but I would still bring it.
And weather.
It was fun to have.
I mean,
when we did.
Again, we're in the Baja.
Yeah,
tons and
wind.
tons and tons of wind.
Yeah.
So that really limits, like, oh, I want to take it out, but I can't.
Right.
So if it wasn't as windy, we probably would have used it a lot more. But with wind comes waves, and again, just being comfortable in the water.
Yeah. Keelan's final question here is, what favorite foods you've made? What are the favorite foods you've made?
Well, when me and Jim went out and caught the yellowfin, having that first meal where that fish was barely 3-4 hours old, so fresh.
So good.
I made ceviche a couple times from scallops, prawns, and the fish. That was really good.
I think the scallop ceviche was my favorite.
I would have to agree.
So good.
We cooked a lot, and we also ate out a lot. We wanted to support the local economy, and I'll say right now, we really, top of the list would be the mom and pop restaurants. The food was huge portions, magnificently fresh, and super cheap.
Well, and getting to know those people, the mom and pops that are actually cooking that food, and being able to just talk with them. What wood are you using? Oh, that's mesquite. Oh my gosh. And having those personal connections that way.
Yes.
Forget about it.
So, and it was more of a, not just to put food in our belly, but it was an experience to talk to these local mom and sisters and aunts, and you smell all this carne asada coming off a wood charcoal or a mesquite fire, and it literally stopped me in my tracks every time. I didn't need to eat, but I wanted to eat.
He's a little partial to those.
I'm a little partial to them.